welcome to the Love, Listen, Talk, Repeat podcast. I'm Wendy Capewell, your relationship specialist, and this podcast is all about things relating and affecting relationships. I'll be interviewing guests who are experts in their profession, learning more about what they do and how they help others. In some episodes, I'll be sharing some insights and tips of my own. So settle back and enjoy. Today I'm going to be talking to Severine Menem. She is a non-diet weight loss nutritionist, and her approach is tweak a few habits, try some new foods, and you will see the results. So, Severine, introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do and why you got into it.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me today first. I'm a nutritionist and I specialize in diet because of my own personal experience. All my life, I was a bit chubby, overweight, and it actually accelerated when I moved to London because I moved here to build a career in finance, and all you do is work. And you don't necessarily look after yourself. So after about 10 years, I noticed that I was massively overweight, borderline obese. Yes.
Wow, I am surprised because that's not the way you look now.
Yes, but that's why, things have changed. So yeah, there was a weight, that was an issue. I was constantly tired and I had very strong mood swings, and I was probably depressed most of the time as well.
Oh.
And one day I totally burnt out because of work, and that day I realized, okay, it has to change. I have to make health my priority, and then the career will come and everything will be much easier. So that's what I did. I went to the GP. He couldn't help me the first time, and it took a while, but basically I've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism, which is when the thyroid, the gland that modulates the metabolism, is not producing enough hormones, so everything is slow in your body. That's why I was so tired, so cold all the time, and that's why I couldn't shift. I was keeping the weight and couldn't shift it. So for me, it was no longer a question of losing weight, but how could I get back to being healthy? Because obviously that was a sign that my body wasn't functioning properly. So I took the hormones, which is the usual treatment. Hypothyroidism is actually a very common condition for women, so I was not too worried about that. But I didn't want to have to be relying on medication. I wanted to do my best on the other side, so I started tweaking my diet, doing more exercise, and that was possible because the hormones helped me be have more energy and see more clearly. So fast forward, because I had a lot of hit and miss. I didn't know that there was actually nutrition professional who could help with me on this journey. But 3 years later, I had to stop all the medication because I completely reversed my condition and actually went the other way. I was producing too many hormones and I got heart palpitation. It was really scary because I was in my mid-30s. And so I went to the doctor and we did the blood check and he said, okay, look, let's stop now. And basically, so by just tweaking my diet, changing my lifestyle, and obviously having the medication, I managed to completely get rid of what I had. And I've been following up on a regular basis, and I've never had to take thyroid hormones again, despite, me getting pregnant and post-pregnancy, which is usually when a female has their hormones go all over the place. So definitely. I thought it's so incredible that I wanted to learn all I could about nutrition and help women, people in general, but I think women more specifically, understand that it's not just about weight loss, it's about being healthy. And obviously when you look after yourself, just to be healthy, you rebalance what the issue is, and then you drop the weight very easily. So you have to do these changes, one step at a time and enjoy the journey. And then, you will get the results. So that's what I do, and I really love it. I've got really good results.
And I can hear that. I can hear your passion and excitement. Obviously you really love what you do. And I think, that, and it is that, I have an underactive thyroid, and have medication. So I get what you're saying. It is quite common. And yes, I'm sure if I tweaked my diet a bit more, that I wouldn't need to rely so much on their medication, which would be really good. So I'm feeling this is maybe the route I should be going, to be honest. But yeah, I think that it is as well, that relationship with our food, because it's, well, certainly in the Western world, it's not a healthy one, is it?
No.
Yep.
No. We use food for everything, and that's the issue. It's like food is the answer to every common emotion we can have, and situation is just food.
Oh, I would agree with you, because when I'm working with people emotionally, which I do, obviously, that is one of the things. What do you do when you're feeling down? Well, I comfort eat. And I think people mistake those feelings of emptiness for hunger, but it isn't hunger. It's a void inside them, but they fill it with food.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So when does this relationship with food start?
I think it starts way earlier than people would imagine, like as babies or in the very early childhood. I have clients telling me, that they're not eating this or that, either because they were forced to eat that food and they didn't like it, or because their parents never liked it, so they never had it, and then their palate is not used to the food.
Yeah.
So that's the main issue that I have. But also, because parents teach you, you've been good, and then I give you some food, and I'm like, well, we're not dog, you can have other treats than just food. And so it's a bit shocking, but yeah, I mean, I've been brought up this way, so that's probably why I've been over my life. Actually, most of my life, because now as the year passes, it's different. But yeah, that's when we think about it and look at it, it's like, why are we doing that?
Yeah, and I can really relate to that, because I think food can be used as a reward, as you say. It can be used as a weapon. It can be used because the parent just can't cope anymore, so they shove sweets or chocolate at their child. And I've got a kind of different taking away of something personally that happened to me. Can I share it?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I've been a vegetarian since I was 4. And I turned to my parents and said, I'm not eating that anymore. I don't want to eat it. Now, they at 4. Now, they responded. They told me that the reason I stopped eating meat was I asked whether the meat on my plate, what it was, and they said it was lamb. And I said, is that like the lamb that you see in the fields? And they said yes. And from that moment on, I wouldn't eat any meat. But what is interesting is that at the age of 4, I had polio. And so I was sent away. I was sent away to hospital. In those times, you were in an isolation hospital. My parents couldn't visit. And when I came home, my parents' friends were there with their daughter, who was around the same age. And in my head, I can still remember that feeling that she was playing with my toys while I'd been sent away. So was she living in my home? That was my little head. Now, when you think about it, I felt I'd been punished and sent away. So if I stopped eating meat, I could punish my parents. They would want me to eat healthily and get strong after. I mean, luckily I completely recovered. But there's that. I always found that an interesting one. I can't confirm it with my parents because they're not around anymore. But when I had that light bulb moment, I thought that's a strange connection. There has to be a connection there.
Yeah, as children, we make connections where they're not really related because we're children and we don't necessarily understand, the parents' point of view or a bit more of the situation. And that's.
So I just think how, that those connections with food are so strong.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it is quite a well, isn't it? So when it came to me, it was, wow, that is really quite interesting, because that's what children will use, maybe unconsciously, but that they have no power. So unconsciously they may just react in a particular way because they want to take their power back. And if it is about food, do that. Well, I'm not eating it. You're so determined that I will eat that food. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, as children, we're pretty much strong-willed. I've got a 3-year-old, and now he understands the power of decisions. So before, I would take him to the zoo, and we would go to the aquarium, and he would say, "Oh, that's fish." He said, "Yum yum." So he was looking for to eat fish, but now, so it was just last year. So now he doesn't want to eat fish because now he understands the animal and actually eating the animal, and he's no longer willing to do that. So I have to be careful when I say which kind of meat it is. And so chicken is okay to eat chicken, but I can't really have him eat other things. So he's like, do you want white meat or red meat? So I don't get into the details of what it is. And fish, the only fish he eats is sushi. So at least that's something. And when it's not sushi, and it looks like chicken when it's white. So I'm not lying to him because I don't want to lie to him, because I know it will backfire at some point. But if it's white, it's like chicken, and he would give it a try. And usually it works. Or if I add ketchup. So I'm in a way, I'm tricking him into eating as varied as I can. But yeah, it gets harder and harder. But I don't know what's going on in his head, because he's not able to express everything or make the connections. But I can see there is a lot going on, and it's related to food, obviously.
Yeah, because that's it. We see it all around us. We're flooded with so many different things, and quite often I think the rubbish food is in the most colourful packaging.
Yes. I know it's a bit tricky. It's really cheap. And it's very colorful, and it's very addictive. You know, they try it once and they want it again, and they have such a good memory. You wouldn't imagine, such a little thing has such good memory, and you can remember, mine at least. It's just wow. So I have to be careful.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's good, because if you can work on that as a treat, then it's like you can eat all your meals every day of the week, and then you get that treat at the weekend. And I think it's a win-win situation, because you can remind them, about that later, and they will eat everything else. So it's not perfect, but
no. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting subject, isn't it? I think just that relationship with food, and I think it is a fuel. It's not. We should treat it as a fuel, and not the way we do treat it. I think our whole lives are around kind of takeaways and eating out, and as you say, that kind of processed food. There's so many additives in because the manufacturers want us to buy more, so they put foods in there that they know that will trigger our reward system.
Yes, exactly. I think if we manage to start listening to our body again and feeling which food does to our body, then that would be a lot easier to make decisions. Because if we can associate, okay, I eat that and I feel really bloated or really tired afterwards. Oh, do I want to feel that feeling? No. So what about this? Oh yeah, I remember I felt really good about that. So let's have that.
Yeah.
It's not really what we do on a regular basis, because we're hungry and we want to eat now. So what's available? Oh, that's ready, obviously, and that's easier. But yeah, preparing healthy food takes a lot of time or organization.
Yes, I agree, and it does take. It is making sure that you're buying the right foods in the first place, and that you haven't got that the snacks and the things that aren't so good for us in the cupboard, because it's too much. It's too easy to just say, I want something quick and easy to eat. Oh, what I've got, I know there's biscuits or there's cake or there's crisps or whatever else it is. Yeah,
There is a way around. You can plan your week, as in, and then do some batch cooking. So roughly when you're going to have what, and then you can freeze so that there is always something good in the freezer. And it doesn't take that long to reheat. Obviously you can use the microwave. Not the best option.
No.
But it's still healthy than having some other food which is not as good. So
yeah.
So there are the way, but it's a mindset as well. It's like, what do I want to do to stay healthy?
How do you feel about the kind of having set times to eat? What are your thoughts on that?
Very, very important. For me, it's there are a few rules. I don't know if it's because I'm French and I've been taught that way, or because that's the way it works for me. But I find that having meals on a regular basis every day, I know when to expect to eat, and then I can eat accordingly. So that, if, for example, I'm hungry between breakfast and lunch, I know when will be lunch, and then I can have either, a glass of water, because it would be enough, or just like a small banana or a few nuts. I can manage that. But I find it very frustrating when I go away with my in-laws, because they don't have such things. They eat when they're hungry, and they're never hungry at the same time. So I never know, how much to eat at each meal to be until the next one. And it's a real issue for me. But obviously that everyone is different, they're from a different culture, so I adapt. But I find it super important to eat at the same time for myself, but also for my body, because the body the body likes what is regular, what is constant. So not eating at the same time doesn't really make sense, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I wonder sometimes if I remember when my girls were little, and we would have maybe a late Sunday lunch, and we felt that maybe we had it in the evening, but they were used to having their Sunday lunch at lunchtime. And so you say, well, it's time for bed now. So, well, we haven't had tea. Because they were expecting, we changed the meals around just because it was more relaxed. And it's really interesting the way they were in that habit of, well, no, we haven't had tea. We can't go to bed because we have to have tea. Yeah. And but there again, I sometimes also wonder whether what we do is, because it's mealtime, we have to eat instead of listening to our body, or is that more about how much we eat or what we eat?
I think it comes from what has been said around us, that we need to eat and we need to have our snacks in between the meals, and we need to have breakfast. And I don't think we necessarily have to. I think it's good to eat every 3 to 4 hours, because that's when, the stomach gets emptied and digested and we no longer have fuel. But we don't have to eat constantly, and we can skip breakfast. We can. There is this intermittent fasting, that eating, let's say, late morning to dinner, and then resting the body the rest of the time. That works really well, and it's really healthy, actually. So we don't have to do everything that we are told to do. We just need to listen to our body. And coming to your story, actually, there's pretty much the same story with my son. At nursery, for some reason, they eat all the time. Like, they have breakfast, and then they have like a snack in the morning, and then 1 hour later they have lunch, and then a snack. And it's so when comes the weekend, we only eat like breakfast, lunch, something in the afternoon, and dinner. He wants to eat constantly. I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized that's how they do during the week. And then that made total sense, but it's not healthy, because you're getting used, it's back to getting used in the childhood to eat something all the time. So
yeah, and I think that's where we got to, isn't it? That we, as a society, we tend to graze.
Yes.
And we're not, as you say, we're not giving our bodies that time to feel that hunger. We're filling it probably with food that isn't really healthy for us anyway. And I think if you have a lot of sugar, for example, when you get that drop in the sugar level, you want it again. So it's kind of needing the reward system needs rewarding again. And you're not really hungry. It's like that wanting the reward rather than wanting the food.
Yeah, it's a reward, and also as you mentioned, the sugar roller coaster. The body craving something, or for no reason, just because you're eating, and that's very dangerous for the long term. So I'm all about breaking these habits by eating different foods, so that you don't get the sugar roller coaster, so that you don't feel like having the treat, and it's just
And we do treat ourselves with food. We reward ourselves so much with food, don't we? Yeah. Okay. So what happens to us when we feel that way? Is it about not loving ourselves enough? Is there something about, when we don't look after our bodies? Is that about not caring about ourselves, not loving ourselves? What do you think about that?
That's a massive question. I don't know how to answer that. For my clients, I think it's more about putting the priority elsewhere. So either, they're people who are high achievers and the career is number one.
Yeah.
Or I work with mothers as well. And when you become a mother, it's all about the child. And then never looking after yourself. So I think in a way, yes, you're right. It's a lack of self-love for both scenarios.
Yeah. And then we don't.
So sad.
It is sad. It is sad.
And
I'm so conscious of the fact that mums and career people, they don't have the time to eat. They don't have the time to consider their body or themselves. I mean, and if you're not looking at the way you eat, because that is fuel, as you say, and if you're not putting the right fuel in your body, then is that because you don't love your body? I mean, I often tell clients, look, this is your body isn't a car. If you have a car, you have to put the right nutrients in a car. You have to put fuel and water and oil, and you have to have it regularly serviced. And what happens if you don't do that? And then, the answer is, well, you'll end up breaking down. The car.
Exactly.
So you could part exchange your car or get a new one. You can't with your body, can you? This is the vehicle that we travel in for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. There is this great saying about, you only have one body, so you better look at it. But I think also it's because they've never really listened to their body and tried to understand how their body works. So when I show them, where I tell them and they try it, and they can really feel the difference and how much it has an impact on their career or their family life, then, they think twice and they change everything. And now, having a break for lunch and enjoying sitting down, eating mindfully the right food is part of their routine, because they can see, in the afternoon, they won't have the slump and they will feel great, steady, energized until dinner or wherever, during the meeting. And for them, it becomes a no-brainer that's a way forward now. But they had to be willing to love themselves enough to make a change. You're right. Yeah, it's all about self-love. They decide to love themselves at some point. Yeah, and for the mother as well, When you know how hard it is to become a mother, because the whole thing changed. It's no longer about you. It's about this little thing, and it just never stops. But I hope it does at some point, because this is a bit,
Yeah, and I think the other thing you really brought out was about eating mindfully.
Yes.
Because how many times do people eat on the hoof? They eat while they're, and I'm guilty of it at times. I know, I'll go on my, I know.
You know what's even worse? People eating in the streets. I think that's even worse.
It's eating in the street. It's eating while they're working. It's eating while they're on their phone, while they're watching TV. And you're not paying attention to what you're putting into your body, and you're not processing it properly, and you're not actually enjoying it.
Yeah, and you can't digest it properly, because for the digestion you need to be looking at it and salivating, and then you start secreting the enzyme that will break down the food and everything. So and the chewing as well. It's just, if you don't do that, for sure you will not digest as properly as you can. And if you don't digest it well, you will not take the nutrients out of food. So it's like you're doing something, you're supposed to fuel yourself in the best case scenario of the idea of eating as a fuel for the body, but actually you'll never get as much as you can because you're not doing it properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard. I think in some ways we're all a bit guilty about it, unless, you know, we are social and enjoying a meal together with people, then maybe it's the best way to do it. But it's so rare nowadays.
Yeah. And I think that, for me, I know that can be a really bad thing, because, you know, I notice it quite often, because I think people they don't notice what's going in their body, you know. And I have done some mindfulness with clients as well, you know. Look at the food, look at taste it, smell it when you're preparing it, notice the colors and the textures, and when you're actually, you know, even when you're buying it, but when you're cooking it, and then when you put it on the plate, because when you have different things on your plate, I think what is so lovely is that you can put one particular food with another and taste that, and it's in your mouth, and then you put a different food together and you get a different sensation, as long as you pay attention to it. And I think that's the magic quite often, because if I just have a bowl of pasta or something, I get really bored, because it's the same old. Halfway through the meal, I'm going, I'm bored now, because I don't get that interest of the you know, maybe a piece of a particular vegetable with another particular vegetable. You get if you combine them, you get a very different sensation.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's just about adding some different spice, or adding spicings of herbs, and just that make the whole thing completely different.
Yeah.
And you know, the funny thing about preparing food, most of the time people who prepare food eat less, because they have spent this time, you know, watching the food and smelling the food, and they're pretty full. I mean, I can't say they're full, but they're not as hungry. No. So they eat less, and that's why, you know, it's about being aware of the body, and they're losing more weight.
Yeah.
Going back to tweaking some few habits, you know, it's just as simple as that sometimes. Just preparing food, and you will eat less.
Yeah. And noticing when you're full, rather than feeling you've got to empty your plate.
Yes.
How many of us grew up with being told you had to finish a plate? Or the story about, you know, other people will be so grateful to have food, you know, starving children in Africa syndrome, and we have to finish what's on our plate. And that guilt of not being able to leave food, so we overeat.
I know, but it's about also learning how to feel full, and it takes about 20 minutes for all the hormones and things, you know, to give us the feedback. So if we're just not eating mindfully, we will never feel full unless, you know, we're eating too much. And it's about portion control, knowing, you know, how much we need. And you're right, there is all this guilt about being young and not willing to finish the food and, you know, plate. And it's back to childhood, as we said earlier.
And I guess there's other something else that comes to mind. I had a client recently who said that her relationship, her husband was a feeder, so he kept feeding her, and she got overweight and didn't feel good about herself. And it's a really interesting one, isn't it? That some people are feeders, and what it does, because we feel obliged to eat that food because that whole circle.
Yeah, because we want the love of our parents or partner, and then we feel like, you know, we need to eat. Yeah, they have this really bad thing with, sorry to always go back to my son at nursery, but now that I know, you know, what my adult clients tell me, then I can see that happening to my child at nursery. Yeah. So they're using, you're being a good boy, so do that for me. I'm like, why? You know, there's no relationship between being a good boy and doing something that they want you to do, and I'm a bit upset by that, but it works. So I don't know what to say. I don't know how to do that, but it's I was shocked at first.
Yeah, and it is the language you use, isn't it? Exactly the language we use. I've prepared all this food for you and you are ungrateful because you're not eating it. All those messages that we get as children, and as you said, wanting to please our parents and and be that good boy, that good girl. It does
Right.
start very early on, doesn't
It
it?
must be really hard for your client if she doesn't like her body, but her husband want her to. Oh my God, that's
I know.
big relationship issue. That's why you're there.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, in some ways, it was an abusive relationship. That was part of the abusive behaviour, and she left it. But it was one, and she's now feeling she's still overweight, and that was where that seed was planted. So it's sad, isn't it? So an interesting one. So that's if food is our big issue, isn't it? And the way we behave towards it, and the way the way we kind of respond to food, and the damage it can do if we eat the wrong food. I think is really, you brought that out really clearly today.
But it's I think perhaps because of the culture here as well, because food is absolutely everywhere. You can't just walk 2 meters without a food shop selling food, and also the culture of having food in the office, cake day or whatever. And I remember when I was employed, and there was always biscuits in the kitchen. It was like, how do you want to resist biscuit? It's not possible. So, but I know we probably notice when you're traveling and you go to different countries in Europe, for example, you can't find, you find food, but it's like special shop food. It's not like any type of food, like, newsagent food where you have like cheap bars, and it's more like bakeries and more refined. And I think it's the culture here that, as you said, food is about everything. And I'm losing what I wanted to say. Sorry.
No, you're fine. It is. It's everywhere. You're so right. I was just thinking when you were saying that you can't get petrol without there being food in there. You can't. At every newsagent, every shop, there is.
Oh yeah. And so I also wanted, all the advertisements everywhere. I think it's because of the food industry. It's really powerful as well. In a way, it's right that we need this food as food, but the way it's presented to us, it's more dangerous. It's processed, and it's highly processed. And now, if we look at the ingredients, I think that's even worse. And we're lucky in Europe, because I remember I went to the US 2 years ago. And just for baby food, I didn't understand, baby food here is just like plain ingredients. You know exactly what this fruit is, this vegetable is. But in the US, like garlic extract. Why do you want to give garlic extract to babies, under one? Or these, some names, I had no idea what it was. I was like, come on, they're babies, they just need natural food. Why do you do that? And then when you look at the bars, they're really, it's just sugar in different forms. And it's like, whoa, that's where we're going. But we can't really do anything about it unless, I think it comes from the government. But then they're trying with the sugar tax, which is a bit of a, maybe that's not the subject for today, but sorry.
Really, if somebody has an addiction to sugar and they like that, they're not going to worry about it.
Yes.
I think it's you're right. It's re-education. It's not about.
Because you're dealing with relationship with food, have you ever come some food addicts?
I do get people who. They're addicted to food, or they really, that is their go-to place. It's that comfort eating, and that's what they do, because they have got that missing in their lives. They just feel empty. Maybe they're not in a good relationship, or they're just lonely, or there's something has gone from their relationship. Because I always feel if you remove something in your life, whether it's an addiction or some kind of habit, or you lose someone, you need something to fill that void. And too often people will use food when they're miserable, and they can fill it with other things, but food is quite a big one. Comfort eating, we all hear, oh well, I'm comfort eating. It's almost acceptable. It's like, that's what we do, and we don't see it as harmful.
Well, actually, the people who said that, they feel really sad about it, and they want to do something, but they don't know where to start.
No, exactly.
And I think people are really aware, more and more people are aware and willing to admit that they use food for the wrong reason. And at the same time, I believe food should be enjoyed, you know. I think it's okay to go like once a week or once in a while, you know, do a nice salon days at tea room, you know, and have like a nice cake and as a, because, you know, we also need that as part of, you know, being social and enjoying, I mean, food, maybe because it's my French way, you know, not to feel guilty about enjoying the good stuff, but it's about not rewarding every day, because there is no reason to reward ourselves for that.
No, I agree. I think it'd be nothing worse than just having, being so restrictive in a way of eating, whether it's a diet or just restricting yourself. Then you're going to be miserable. And then I think that's when people say, "Oh, I've given up the diet, or I've stopped eating healthily because I just felt I was denying myself and not enjoying things."
Yeah, and that's why they fail. They're trying too hard. And it's not human to try so hard to change all of a sudden. It needs to be done in steps and in progression and in taking into account everything around them, because otherwise, it's setting themselves for failure. And we don't want that, because I think with food, it always backfires in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Because you see all these people, you know, trying to lose a bit of weight, and then they end up losing weight and then putting back on a lot more weight, and like, oh my god, you know, it's just it's a vicious circle. I mean, I've lived that, so I can talk about it, but it's just because, you know, it's someone else who told me I should lose weight, which was obviously the wrong thing to do, and that told me that my relationship to my body was wrong, even though I could see I was a bit bigger than the other children in my class, but I felt okay with my body. I was not that big. And then when someone plants you with this idea, obviously you keep it for a long time until you feel okay with your body, and you tell the people, just, you know, back off, you know, it's my body, it's my life, I'm good with whoever I am. But it's really hard how people judge us.
Yes.
And I think it's people tend to see in you, I mean, in the other people, when they don't want to admit to themselves. I mean, have you found that? Sometimes.
I think image is a big thing, isn't it? It's just comparing ourselves, and I think it is not, and then you don't feel part of society or part of the clan or whatever it is. I think there are so many times when we see these pictures, they're airbrushed, and then we see the I don't know, the people that we kind of, the role models, that they're stick beans. They're just not normal women. They're not curvy women. Women are meant to be more curvy. You know, gone are the days where you had those voluptuous women, such as, I'm going to go way back, but Marilyn Monroe. She was curvaceous. She was a proper woman. She wasn't stick bean, where she wasn't trying to be something that she wasn't. And I think we've just lost what we are. We're all different shapes and sizes, and I don't think we should be comparing ourselves to each other or anybody else. And one of my friends, younger friends, she put up on Instagram this morning a picture of herself in bra and, you know, in her underwear, and she said, "This is me. I've got, you know, I've got stretch marks. I've got cellulite. I'm not perfect. I'm not wearing matching underwear. I am just me. And I'm okay with that, because my body gave me 2 beautiful children. And this is what it is as a result. And I'm okay with that." And I just thought, good on you, because she doesn't look, you know, she's not overweight. She's just normal. And so lovely to see that this lovely woman, she is lovely, but she's prepared just to put that up and say, just look at me. My boobs have sagged. I'm not, you know, I'm not beautiful. I'm not skinny. I'm just me. And I just think, you're beautiful.
Yeah, that's good to be in to enjoy who we are. And I think, it's society telling us how we should be, and very few women manage to get that. I mean, I've got a friend who after graduation moved to Thailand, and he can see all these so-called health bloggers and so on. And he said they can do it because they live in a stress-free environment and they eat like really fresh fish and really fresh fruits, and it's really tasty, so they don't feel like they need something else. So of course, they look gorgeous on the beach because of the whole package. But here, if they were living in like normal country like we live in, they would never be the same. They would not look the same, they would not feel the same, that would be the different stories. So never compare ourselves to the other ones, because you never know what is going on in their life. But
no. Oh, it's been really interesting talking to you today. I've loved it, Severine. I think we've covered quite a lot, haven't we? But I just wonder, is there anything that you want to say to the listeners that you haven't, that we've missed? Is there?
I think we've covered a lot, and we can cover a lot more, obviously.
I'm sure.
No, the only thing I would say is, just to sum up, is like when it comes to food, and relationship with food and yourself, never do anything drastic. Just start with enjoying your food and listening to your body. And when you do that and you listen to the feedback that your body gives you, and you really listen to it and act accordingly, I think you will get the right measure, what to do.
Yeah, I think that's an important message. Don't do anything drastic and listen to your body. I think they're very, very, very good advice.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put all your contact details will be in the show notes, on the podcast show notes. But how can people get in touch with you if they're just listening?
Well, best way, send me an email. Otherwise, I'm available I've given you all my details, so you can get all, any way you want.
Okay. So what is your email address, please?
It's Severine@severinemenem.com. So I know it's a foreign name, not easy to spell, so that's why you need to have a look at the notes.
Okay, so I'm going to spell it out, because some people may, if they can't, if they're just listening, they might say, how is that?
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
It's Severine at Severine, MENEM.com. And Severine Menem is all one word, no dashes, dots, or anything else.
Yeah.
And just as if somebody's just listening, it's easier then that, okay, I've got it now. So I just so enjoyed today. I think we've covered a lot, and we could cover so much more. I think food is a huge issue, but thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. I hope the audience have taken lots away that they find interesting and helpful too. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. It's been a pleasure.
So you can find all the information about this show in the show notes. And you can find lots more on my website, www.yourrelationshipspecialist.co.uk, including the link to my podcasts. And you can also sign up on my newsletter, which has lots more tips and offers. So until next time, bye for now.